All right, we'll call the 5-4 meeting of the Capital Committee to order at 10:06. I don't know, Mary, if you have any opening comments?
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you all for being willing to participate in this exercise in financial creativity. And thanks especially to Ryan for his offer to chair the committee. As Jim said, we've got our challenges ahead of us. And so we don't want to be pessimistic, but it's I prefer to call it realistic and just have a very down-to-earth view of what money is available and so forth. So, but I think the order of business that Ryan has described in the earlier emails is a good one, and we can just go through the submissions by department. I'll offer you what I know. I'm a little bit behind the curve, perhaps, because I didn't get a chance to review in any detail for probably the last 6 weeks or so. I haven't looked at these submissions. So, but I will recall what the department heads told me in our interviews about them. So to the extent I can offer that today, I will do so. And again, just thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity. It's much appreciated.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share the sheet that was your homework. And what we'll do is we'll go through each project and pick the categories that it would fall in. And then once we complete that, we'll go back and then put those into capital groups, A, B, C, and D. If there's one that we know is a definite D, we'll just put that right from the beginning and not worry about it. Then once we have those groups, we'll go through and then put those in priorities within the groups. So let me get this shared. Share. So you should see my screen now.
Yep.
Got it.
All right.
Got it.
So we'll start right at the top. So we have police cruisers. So just start throwing out categories. If you can think of one, then we can add it. If you have any other options or opinions on this specific project, let us know. We can add it.
So I know why I now know why I was confused at the form, because the form I printed out had blank. It had the diagonal lines, but it didn't have all of these headings. So, okay, I'll apologize in advance. All right.
Yeah, that would be a little confusing then.
Oh, that's what I did too, Jim. Sorry, I did the same thing. I just put my my recommendations in that box going down in the capital group. That's exactly what I did. I just went down and put the letter in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me make a suggestion. Let's just deal with the cruisers sort of as an example. And then if that works for our discussion, then we can proceed to the next item.
Absolutely fine.
So police cruisers, SUVs, I would say public safety.
Yep.
Yes, definitely public safety.
It's not a mandate. Infrastructure maintenance.
Nope.
Improved operation.
Maybe.
I had checked.
Okay. Energy efficiency, I would say no. And quality of life, I would say no.
Yeah, I do think it's a department priority if we're talking about the particular department that submitted it. I know the chief is anxious to upgrade that fleet, but there is some background information from last year that we need to think about. Is that one? What's that?
That's that department priority.
Okay, all right. So let me just offer this. There was $82,000 allocated in capital spending in fiscal 20 for 2 cruisers, neither of which has been received yet. But there is a cruiser that is ready for delivery within a week or two. It's an SUV, and I believe its cost is approximately $42,000 to $45,000 that would come from that balance in last year's capital account. So these 2 cruisers that are listed here are 2 new ones for fiscal 21 that the chief has indicated are necessary. So They didn't get anything, they did get a pickup truck last year from a different funding source, I'm told, from the partial distribution from the MGM mitigation fund. But the cruisers that were requested last year have not been received, but for this one that's about to be delivered within the next 2 weeks. So I tell you all that because if there will be a rollback or the balance that remains in the fiscal 20 capital account for that other cruiser that was not purchased could be turned back and potentially used to fund the purchase of one of these, or turned back in its entirety to supplement free cash.
So Mary, the chief doesn't expect to be able to purchase the second vehicle within this fiscal year then?
Correct. I mean, I think he would like to but they take quite a bit of time, I think, to deliver the way that they have to be modified for police use. And there was some, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. There was some difficulty last year. I believe the chief thought he was getting the second vehicle, and there was some question about outfitting it with some special equipment that caused the order to be delayed. And in any event, the car has never been delivered. So we're trying to figure out, that's why there's a balance in that account though of 82,000 from last year.
I can add information to this if you'd like. The $82,000 that was left over was money that was budgeted for the greeter. So that's where that money came about. And obviously, we never hired a greeter. The money for the pickup truck was coming from our mitigation fund. And in short, I can give you as much information as you need, but I had conversations this weekend with individuals from the police department, and there is a car that is coming in maybe within the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And the two cars from Capitol could be removed from the Capitol without any hard feelings.
If I may chime in too, Mary, I'm not sure if we have all the information we need. My understanding is that the truck was never ordered and will not be delivered because of financial holdups through the finance department.
Well, I spoke with Olga this morning. She's trying to track down the disbursement of that mitigation money because I was told months ago that 45,000 of it was used for the pickup. So if the pickup hasn't been delivered or isn't in existence, then yeah, there's quite a bit of confusion on that. So
that is correct. It is not ordered, and they can do without, and that's per the police department.
Okay, well, that's good news, except we now need to track down the $45,000, which doesn't appear to be readily accounted for.
Yeah, because we used $55,000 to pave the Pine Knoll parking.
Right.
So.
It was 55 for Pine Knoll, and theoretically, the other 45 went for this vehicle for the police department.
Yeah, that's my recollection of it, Mary, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the story's correct, but my understanding was that the process for ordering didn't meet the requirements of our former finance director.
Yeah, well, we'll figure that out. I think we kind of have defined what the problem is, and I'm not suggesting any malfeasance or anything. It's just a matter of tracking down the bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Olga's on that. She was working on that for me as of last Friday and spoke to me about it this morning. So we'll have an answer shortly.
I'll reach out to Jeff. So do we want to meet with Jeff the next meeting just to clarify it? Or Mary, do you want to reach out to him and deal with it individually?
Well, when do you anticipate your next meeting?
If this time works good for everybody, we can meet again Monday.
Well, I would like to have Jeff present or participate, but I think next Monday is a little ambitious. So I'd ask you to put him off to the following Monday.
Okay. So So we'll look to get with Jeff on the 18th.
I got a question for everybody, and just because I'm not sure, as far as the police department's concerned, do they actually, is this their new way of filling in their cruiser fleet, is using SUVs, Durangos? I mean, are you getting away from the Tauruses and the Chargers? You know?
I think they're moving more towards Dodge vehicles. I think this round they're just going towards SUVs. I know they've had a pretty fair amount of mechanical issues with the Ford vehicles, the Interceptors, the SUVs, and the cars. It's really the same vehicle, just a different body on top of it.
Gotcha.
So that's, they've had, I believe, good luck with the Dodge cars, so not much by the SUVs.
Gotcha.
If I remember my last conversation with Chief correctly, I think he personally prefers a sedan, but probably for the reasons Ryan's articulated, they're going with SUVs. Probably also because it was available sooner.
Gotcha.
It's cost and performance related too. It's not just East Long Meadow. All the surrounding departments have gone to all the shows and the events, and the pricing and the performance. It's really come down to that, which has helped them make their decisions.
Gotcha.
All right, I'll set with police cars for today.
Yep.
All right.
What did we decide on a capital group rating for that?
We didn't group it yet. We just categorized it. And I put some notes and I flagged it for follow-up for May 18th. Just to
Okay.
figure where we are funding wise, because I think that will have a pretty strong bearing on what we want to put in for a group.
Sure.
And then the office renovation, we can scratch this one, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Yes.
it's completed. Nice job, Bruce. They're very happy.
Thank you. I'll let the guys know.
All right, strike. All right. Pine Knoll Sport Court paving.
Obviously, that's a wish list item, I believe. Especially given the situation, who knows if we're going to even have camp this summer. I think we could defer that till next year, but that's my opinion. Maybe a comment from Donna stating that would be helpful. I don't know how you guys feel.
I'd have to agree with you, Bruce, at this point in time.
So
Yeah.
we
So
want,
would I.
That was my thought as well.
do you want to get a comment from Donna, or we just want to categorize it as a D? Review.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question related to parks? It doesn't have anything with Pine Knoll, but yesterday I was at Heritage Park and just took a little stroll around the pond. That drainage issue, is that anything that's under someone's,
Yes, we're constantly
Management?
monitoring the situation over there. The size of the pipe that drains that facility is undersized. It is on our plan at some point in time to upgrade that facility, but we keep an eye on it to make sure there's an overflow. Actually, once it gets up that high, Mary, with an overflow, so it's never going to get beyond that high level that it's at right now.
the interesting thing was though that many of the benches and the picnic tables were in about 3 feet of water.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I wonder if we should start to think about that sooner rather than later. Depending on how long this pandemic exists, it would be nice to have that open space available for
Right.
residents.
Or,
It isn't, because it isn't now.
Right.
or move
Or take the benches out of the water, yeah.
It happens every spring that way, and obviously the infrastructure that needs to be put in place there is going to be quite significant. So we'll work on it, obviously, and keep an eye on it. Unfortunately, it's going to cost a lot of money to redo that pipe and outfall across North Main Street. So
Yeah,
it
okay,
is on our plan to do at some point, but we'll keep an eye on it.
fair enough.
All right, next project. One-to-one Chromebook devices.
What is a zero? Is that like higher than a number one priority?
So since it's my department, I can give you an explanation. The one-to-one Chromebook devices, it's the Chromebook, the one-to-one project that the town council supported and obviously schools supported. And this is an annual thing. So instead of having it categorized, I made it a 0 because it really should be considered separately. It's something that, you know, when we're in it, now we have to stay in it. We have to keep it funded because it just grows. So if it weren't funded this year, then next year, you know, it'll be 210. It just adds, it's cumulative. So that's why I put it as 0. And, you know, IT world, everything starts at 0.
Right. Ryan, if I may?
Sure.
Does this have an impact on our ability to move the virtual classroom to the students?
Direct impact, yep.
Yeah, okay.
I can tell you, if we did not have one-to-one this year, we would have been in an insurmountable, harder place than we were with our one-to-one.
Okay, thank you.
So I would have a question too. It sounds like we can defer the payment without losing any of the performance. Is that an accurate statement?
I'm not sure what you mean.
You said if we don't pay the 105 this year, it'll be 210 next year.
Right.
If we elected to go that route, what do we lose? Are we still going to get whatever it is, the revisions, updates, or whatever to make the device work properly?
Yeah, so right now, our devices that this 105 would replace would be at Meadowbrook School, mainly Meadowbrook, and then a little bit in Maple Shade and Mountain View. We would just have to continue with those devices for another year. And then next summer would just be, well, a little bit busier.
So if I'm reading this correctly, then it sounds like we're able to defer the payment without losing any of the capability of the product.
It would also be the devices, so we wouldn't be able to order the devices.
Oh, the additional.
Right.
Okay.
So we wouldn't do anything this year. It'd be next year we would order twice the devices to implement, which really isn't twice the work. But yeah, that's what we have to do.
Are you just upgrading old devices?
That's what,
Yeah. Okay. And how many does this equate to?
It's 420. So with our current student enrollment counts, we look to replace 420 every summer. We have a rotation and it's predictable. Instead of replacing all 1,400 devices in 1 year, we break it out over 5 years.
So Ryan, do you lose functionality or support, or can the things break down in the meantime, or it's just a matter of deferring the replacement and not much other issue involved?
In the position that we're in right now, with our initial buy-in this current fiscal year, we would actually be in an okay shape other than our lower grade levels are 2 to 4s really. But from 3 to 12, all the devices would still be under the support agreement with Google.
Is there any way we can do a portion of that, Ryan?
We could, yeah.
Instead of the full 105, if you could do 50% of it, perhaps, or?
Yeah, we could do 50% and then roll over the 50% into next year. You know, it's follows the same thing. It's just that that's what we really need to look for replacements. And we're now in a position where the devices we have aren't expiring within the replacement cycle. The ones that we have in our lower grade levels are already expired, but they're not used for state testing, so they don't need to be under the support contract.
Well, it was really a godsend to have them, as Ryan said, for this year in light of what happened. And actually, some of the excess Chromebooks were available for certain administrative staff in the town hall to use from home. So it was a double bonus, if you will. I think that might, from my perspective, I'd like to keep that maybe on hold for future consideration, see how the rest of these items go.
Okay. Do we want to put categories on it?
Sure.
All right. Public safety, I would say no. Government mandate, I would say no. Infrastructure maintenance,
It is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And improved operation as well?
yeah, energy efficiency wouldn't really count. Quality of life for the residents.
Well, it certainly help the parents of those school children, not to mention the kids themselves.
I would say that. I'm just not exactly sure. Capital infrastructure maintenance
Yeah, no,
would be, I mean, I agree with the quality of life for the residents. I just wasn't sure about infrastructure maintenance.
right.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on how you would define infrastructure, whether it would be assets or building type stuff.
Right.
So I think it makes sense to keep that, Jim, how you're thinking about it, as probably more building type stuff. Is that what you're thinking?
Or repairs to the infrastructure, right?
Like, firewalls and things like that, I think of as infrastructure, or things that affect a whole lot of pieces of other stuff. But I mean, I'm fine either way. It doesn't matter. I just thought I'd raise the question.
Okay. Well, we got a flag for review, so thanks. Nice segue into the firewall upgrade. So firewall upgrade, our current firewall is about 5 years old. Our current, or well, not now, obviously, because there's no one on the network, but when school's in session, our max throughput is about 400 to 500 meg. We currently have a 2 gig connection, so 2000. And the firewall is currently our bottleneck. This dollar amount reflects an E-rate discount, so the federal government will pay for 50% of our primary firewall with basic support. This balance gives us a second firewall, and also gives us intrusion prevention and advanced threat protection and some other firewall type things that we need for security wise.
Brian, I would ask, seeing that server upgrades and equipment replacements are next, that this firewall upgrade might be a priority, especially for visiting the other departments, because it does somewhat coincide with server upgrades. Would you agree?
The server upgrades is a little bit different. The firewall upgrade, like you're saying, so it's 5 years old. If it were to go down, like we would be down for days with no internet. Not
You could almost twist my arm to consider it public safety.
Mhm.
Only because I'm thinking hacking. This is what also protects us from intrusions and hacking and things of that nature, Ryan.
It does. Yep. And I'm actually running our connection to Westcom is going to be run through this, just so we can have better visibility and security between our network and a shared network.
It's absolutely public safety
Mhm.
Okay.
and necessary. That whole cyber threat is enormous, and we have to.
In light of what we're doing now with the distancing and the remote stuff, it just seems like it's even more.
I think it's very important, yep.
I think we're all on the same page. This is something that we need to strongly consider.
Yep, I agree.
So infrastructure maintenance,
Sure.
improved operation.
No?
No,
It does. I mean, I'll make the argument. I'm not going to obviously vote for this, but I'll make the argument that we would actually be able to maximize our bandwidth instead of
All right. Okay.
energy
how
efficiency.
about if it failed, we wouldn't have operation, period.
Right.
Right?
That's a good point too. Yeah, this project gives us a redundant firewall. So energy efficiency doesn't really matter. Quality I don't think would reflect. All right, everybody good with these categories?
Yes.
All right, server upgrades. So this server upgrades is for our camera server infrastructure. Right now we have 210 cameras on our network throughout town, and we have 3 main servers that house the data and basically are like the central points for all the video storage. This would be a project over 3 years. This first year to replace our server that's about 8 years old. So as you can imagine, it's old. So like every time this server reboots or does updates, we have to go to the server room in town hall and check the drives and like reseat hard drives because it won't come up. And we right now currently have moved the more critical cameras off of that server, but it's time. It's getting time.
When you say cameras, these are security cameras?
Yep. Security cameras in all the schools.
Exits, that sort of thing?
Yep, exits, traffic control cameras at intersections, a lot of public safety cameras around.
Well, it's definitely a component of public safety. We realize that.
Government mandate, I would say no.
No,
Infrastructure maintenance,
I think so.
Yep.
improved operation.
Yep.
Energy efficiency, I mean,
How does it improve operation?
more reliable, I would say.
Security?
Security, expansion,
Whatever, okay.
energy efficiency, I would say no. Quality of residence, I would say no. Everybody good with the servers?
Yep.
All right, equipment replacements. This was from last year's capital committee. I had broken out the student devices and like iPads we use a lot more in the elementary schools, teacher devices, town side equipment, and consolidated it into equipment replacements. Last year it was funded at 30,000, and same as the Chromebook replacements, it's not something that goes away. It just builds up year after year. I can pull the project up to give you a better idea of what's involved in it. Probably should have had that up already, but I didn't.
This was the desktop equipment replacements, the staff MacBook replacements, and the student iPad replacements?
Yep.
And we didn't fund any of that last year?
Oh, you did. You funded 30,000 of it.
All right.
So is 155 the balance of what you sought last year, or is it,
It's the balance of last year's plus the additional from this year's.
so like we talked about with the Chromebooks, is it possible to replace 50 or some percentage of these devices and not all of them if
Yep.
necessary?
Absolutely. What's in there? Let's see.
You have it rated as a 3, Ryan. Is there a rationale for that?
Yeah, 1 and 2 are more important.
Duh. Thanks.
Other than that, it's really just boils down to what we can get away with and what we need more urgently. You know,
Okay.
the firewall is something that keeps me up at night because if that goes down, then it'll be a bad week.
Sure. Okay.
Same with the server upgrades. So I'll entertain categories for equipment replacements.
It's not public safety, right?
I mean, other than changing computers at the PD, but that, I
All right. Okay.
would say not really.
I mean, improved operation, it's really just maintaining operation, isn't it? It's not doing anything to enhance.
Other than their computer might be a little faster, but
And I don't know, I don't think of like the endpoint units, like the MacBooks and things as part of infrastructure, but I may be looking at that incorrectly.
Yeah.
all right, so no categories.
Well, no, I kind of have a broader
Improvement. or
definition
upgrade?
in my mind of infrastructure than you do, Jim.
Yeah.
From my seat, I see all of our underpinnings as infrastructure, whether they're the traditional ones that the DPW would manage for us or these, desktops. I mean, that to me is infrastructure. 'Cause without them, we don't operate. So
Right.
I would put a check mark there anyway. And
Approved
Are
operation.
some of the existing ones not capable of managing or can we have the latest upgrades of all of our software on some of these older versions? Or
We actually can't on a lot of the town ones. So a couple of years ago, we were looking to upgrade our virtual desktop environment on the town side.
yeah,
It was not funded, so they did give me some money to purchase computer replacements. And in order to meet the demand with the funding that we had, I had purchased off lease computers. So when we bought them, they were already 4 years old, and that was 4 years ago. So a lot of the town computers we're having issues with now because we can't upgrade them to the latest versions of Windows 10 because the hardware can't handle it.
okay. All right, well, that's a concern for me.
Mhm.
You have a new computer though, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Right.
Brian, I'm sorry I missed most of the conversation. As I mentioned, I had
No worries.
an important call, and that was the second half of it, and I got probably one more coming, or first half. So permitting, I mean, the equipment replacements, does that fall into the same category where we might be able to do a partial funding?
Yep, so that one is the same with the Chromebook updates. We can partially fund those.
Okay.
I did put the notes on. You guys can see my whole screen, right? The sheet.
Mhm.
Yep, good.
I'll share this out with you guys once we complete, obviously.
Okay. Rather than just move the whole thing, as possible that we can fund some.
Yep, just with the idea that it's a rollover type of funding. So
Right.
not funded just rolls over to the next year.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for equipment replacements?
Nope.
All right. Permitting software replacement. Currently, we use Munis for our permitting solution. It was a cheaper add-on that Munis had offered when we purchased Munis in 2006. They have since, Tyler, the company that owns Munis, has purchased another permitting company and has, for the most part, sunsetted updates on the permitting software. So it still works. It's a little clunky. It doesn't have advanced features like online portals for residents to enter permits and stuff. But it works. It's costs us $2,500 a year, and to replace it is $70,000. I think it is important, but it's a big nut to crack here.
So, and I think this is one of those items, I think, Ryan, we've discussed, me, you, and Bob, in order for people to go online and fill out trench permits, water and sewer connection fees, and all that stuff without people coming into the office and doing some of that work, right?
Yep, exactly. And so there's the way the Munis permitting works is you can set alerts. So a new building permit that gets entered, it alerts everybody. You can't have individual alerts. So if you're on the alert list, you get every alert regardless. So Bruce gets every alert for every permit, from a window replacement to a sewer inspection they need to do.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a big asset, and I think it would be an extremely beneficial replacement.
Mhm.
If we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, I'd say, that sounds great. I think I would have to give it a low priority under the present circumstances, as much as I think it would definitely improve operations,
Right.
make the public's life easier, certainly make our internal operations more efficient.
Sure.
So I think it's a very good project, and hopefully one that we could fund, but I just don't know what's going to happen with this year. So those are my thoughts on it.
I did. So thoughts on putting it a D and say review in FY22? Is that what the committee's feeling is?
I don't know. I would probably give it a C. It does have merit, and I think it's something that would benefit not only our residents, but our workload to the staff. But we'll have to see if we have funding for it and how the rating process goes.
Okay, so we'll categorize it and then we can go from there. So I'll entertain categories for the permitting software replacement.
I I would lie on the same regards as maybe 2022. It's not imperative. It's a nice upgrade if we could afford it at this point in time. But if we're looking to be more financially conservative at this point, like I previously said, my feeling is 2022 to revisit.
I think it improves operation, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
And residents too, the last box, yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for permitting before we move on?
So did we agree on a category for permitting, C or D, or are we making those determinations at another meeting?
We'll make those at the next meeting. The only ones I'd say that we can make now are if we know it's a definite D or if it's a withdrawal. So the next one, the server room relocation. This is to relocate our town hall server room up to the water tower. The thought was to free up the 200 square feet of office space in town hall to make the town hall offices more friendly and contiguous. The issue is obviously the dollar amount. The costly parts of it are the upgrades that would need to be done where we move the server room to. So if we're gonna move it, we're gonna do it the right way. Make sure we have generators, redundant air conditioners, that type of thing. Make sure it's in a secure area with electronic gate controls and swipe card access. And the other problem is all of our fiber, outside plant fiber legs all terminate to that. It's basically the center of our network. So there's 6 main legs that terminate in that building, which then have to be re-terminated and repatched. And in order to do that and not severely affect the network, we have to run temporary lines like police and fire. It gets expensive really quick.
So Ryan, did you say the server room comprises 200 square feet?
Yeah, about 220 square feet, I believe.
Okay, so to move and free up that 200 square feet, it would cost $344,000 or like $1,700 per square foot.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't seem in my right now. That probably doesn't sound like a good bargain at the moment.
I would agree with you.
Well, Jim, you're absolutely right on the price per square foot, but I do think, and I mean, it's got to be a D or a withdrawal for this year, in my view. But there are other reasons to move the server room from where it is, aside from the freeing up of the 200 feet.
Disagree, Mary. There's probably are a lot of good reasons to have it kind of separate and in a more secure area. Although I have to laugh again because whenever you say by the water tank, I'm there. My head just says, "Oh, water."
The thought behind that is it's the highest point in town.
Yeah.
So that was the reasoning behind that.
Your point is well taken, Mary.
So I'll entertain someone a category for a D.
I would propose a D.
Second.
Yep.
All right.
For now, for this year.
Yeah. For this pass.
Next up for IT, next and final, is building automation upgrades. Our current building automation system, the controllers are end of support or end of sale. I think Bruce, we have 2 years left.
Yeah, we have 2 years left. We've actually bought a couple in stock, what they had left over, just in case if our automation system goes down. The main head ends, the circuit boards are no longer made by Continuum, I believe, or is it? Yeah, Continuum. So that's no longer going to be supported. It's going to be Structureware, I believe, is the new terminology for the automation system, which they'll be supporting moving forward. So at some point in time, we're definitely going to need to upgrade this. I don't think needs to be done this year, but definitely next year.
Yeah.
In that case, D.
Hey, there it is.
I had it as a D too.
All right.
I'm kind of surprised then if that's the urgency that this year, or next year, Bruce, that it's only listed as a 6th priority.
Right. Well, like I said, just like anything else, we keep pushing off, pushing off, pushing off. And one of these days, we're going to call for support and say sorry. So
Yep.
it is what it is, and we understand the time. So
Next year, would you assume that priority number would be higher?
Yeah, oh yeah.
yes, definitely. Well, my thoughts, anyways.
Yeah, because with when these devices become out of date, then it's out of date, out of support, no more security updates. They're your number one attack vector. You know, that's how like all these big compromises you see, a lot of them come through building automation systems, and it's their critical infrastructure, those and our SCADA systems.
Is there a significant likelihood of a significant price increase by deferring this another year? Do you know? Do you have any sense of that?
There is, well, there wouldn't be for this dollar amount. There was for device replacements, but Bruce and Joe foreshadowed and purchased replacement parts at a lower cost a couple months ago. So we actually got in, I think it was like a 40% increase that was going up in replacement parts. So we have a comfortable little stockpile that should hopefully get us through the next 2 years.
Okay.
All right, finally done with IT. Ladder truck.
I don't think we can really have much discussion about that. It's a contracted liability.
No, the ladder truck and the ambulance are necessary.
Any arguments just making this one in the ambulance A's and moving on?
None.
No argument.
Hold on.
All right. Allen Street landfill closure, year 1 of 5, 150,000 the first year with a total of $2.168 million.
There you go. Obviously,
Um,
yeah, Mary, you were in on the meetings. This is one of those landfills we've been ignoring for many years. Obviously, it's under the Board of Health just because that's where it falls through the chain of command when it comes to the DEP. We started some work this year, so we're looking to continue on. And obviously, given the times, I'll defer to the committee to assign a priority or capital group to this. I think it's important, but I know.
Can I ask, I thought last year there was, of this 150, was 75,000 not approved last year in capital funding?
Yeah, 75 was approved last year, so we can get the design work and get start all the paperwork to submit to Mass DEP for the closure of the project.
But is this, should this 150 be another 75 or is
No,
it's really
no,
150?
yeah, it's really 150. To
Okay.
actually start going in there, clearing trees and getting all the design work completed.
Is going to have a problem with DEP? I was at that meeting that you referenced, and
Right.
they seemed to suggest that it had been more or less on the back burner for several years, and that's why they were in town in the last month. So
Right. It is what it is. If we defer it, we can obviously, given the times, use that as our fallback response to them if they have an issue with it. I wouldn't take it completely off the capital plan. Maybe just put it way down on the list and see if there's any funding available after we're all said and done with this list. If the committee's so inclined to think so as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with giving it a C
I
I as well.
at this
I
time.
don't have an argument with that, but Bruce said the funding projection is the 75. Did that actually come up with a plan or?
Yes, that's to start the whole plan for the closure process. So we had to go out, do a site survey, get all the obviously the perimeter of the landfill, check all the monitoring wells, just to do obviously a good once through to check the condition of the site and so on and so forth. So that's what we've started so far.
The work is anticipated to be done kind of, it looks like with fairly even funding over 5 years. Is that
Yes.
the best guess as to how it actually will be?
Yes. Yes, and each year, obviously, depending on how much work we get done, those numbers may change slightly. This is just an estimate based on the information we have right now.
And just one last question: was that meeting that you had with the DEP, was that pre-pandemic?
Yes.
Yes, by about a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. No, sorry. I'm okay with.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like I said, you never know with the DEP how they're going to react, but it is what it is. So, like you said, we've been deferring this project for 12 years. We finally have completed the Summers Road landfill. So, so yeah.
Well, can I just ask, is there any sort of, I guess if it's been deferred for 12 years, I should know the answer to this, but is there any potential risk to public health from emissions from the failure to cap that, or?
No. The biggest thing is the cap is very minor. There's actually trash and stuff actually coming through the landfill right now, just because it wasn't capped properly, or even capped.
Yeah, you get a strong wind and knocks a tree over, and then the tree pulls a bunch of trash.
Exactly.
So does anybody have any category suggestions for this?
Well, it's a government mandate, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Say,
I'll throw a C out there.
I'm okay with C.
Okay.
all right. Everybody go with the landfill?
Yep.
All right, methane extraction system upgrade. This is for the pump behind the fire department, right, Bruce?
Yes, it is. So this past year, the fire department has been monitoring this methane extraction system from our Summers Road landfill. Given their situation and I guess new operations up at the fire department, Paul approached me because he can no longer do the inspections up there. So on a daily basis, my staff is charged now with going up there, greasing the pump, maintaining the pump, filling out the proper paperwork, so on and so forth. So this dollar figure is for the remote monitoring of that site without us going there daily and inspecting it and getting numbers. This would be hitched up to our SCADA system. So if the pump should fail, we'd get an alarm. If obviously the gases and things like that exceeded a certain level, we'd be called. It's just one of those things to help obviously the operations of the DPW.
Bruce, is this dangerous?
No, and I'm going to give you a brief story. The pump was not running for I believe this past summer for like two weeks. The methane didn't build up significantly, but I cannot get an engineer to sign off on it that the levels, you know what I mean, are going to stay consistently. If somebody would just sign off and say it's fine the way it is, but obviously given the nature of the system, no one's willing to sign off on that as being closed and no longer needing that pump.
And the fire department can't monitor it because they don't have the staff to do it anymore, is that it?
Yes.
Who, the fire department?
Yeah, they've been doing it, like I said, since the inception, since their facility was put up over there, probably the last 15 years. Going off, checking the pump, just with a checklist. You got to go out every day. There's a checklist to make sure it's running properly, you know, the whole 9 yards, so.
So do we want to view this similar to the Allen Street landfill closure?
Yeah, although I take it that it's not a partial funding kind of thing.
No. Yeah.
But I would be okay with that, Mike.
Okay, well,
Yeah, for now, let's see.
And then
We can review it at a later date.
Yeah.
and probably improved operation since you can now monitor it remotely.
Absolutely.
Everybody comfortable with those?
Yeah.
So we're coming up on an hour. I'm not sure if you guys want to keep going. I don't want, I would like to be respectful of your time. We got probably about half to 2/3 left.
I'm good to keep going.
I'm fine.
I can keep going for a while as well.
Yeah.
Keep chugging along. All right, up next is the school department. First up is the Maple Shade Steam Pipe Replacement Phase 2.
Hey, Ryan, could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Could we take some of these items out of order because we have Bruce and maybe if you go down to the trucks and the DPW stuff, maybe we could act on some of those
Sure.
more quickly.
Absolutely. So we want to skip right down to DPW?
Well, you can take conservation agent out. That's gone. We don't have any funding for that, and that's not
Yeah, it's not in the proper place. I just made this
Right.
list off of what was actually submitted.
it shouldn't have been in capital anyway. And then I don't know if you want to spend some time on the master plan suggestion, but I thought with Bruce's presence, we could maybe knock through some of those.
I'm on the capital committee anyway, so I'll be at them all anyway. It's up to you guys, however you want to go about it.
What are your thoughts on the master plan? That's for a consultant, obviously.
You asking us generally, Mary?
Yes.
I don't know that much about it, but it seemed like it's something that we're going to wind up having to do something about it. But it sounded like the request for the 125,000 was because we really couldn't find the time to do it ourselves. It struck me as something that potentially could be deferred for a year.
I would agree that without also a conservation agent, or I don't want to use,
Planning director, right?
Planning director.
Not used to that phraseology, our director of planning. I wouldn't even put this in a C. I'd put it in with a D or withdrawal for 21.
Plus, there may be grant opportunities that may be available to help offset some of these costs.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
The only reason I don't disagree with the rating, but in my view, the absence of a master plan since 1976, I believe, is the last one for the town. It kind of impedes our ability, from my point of view, of determining how and where to best spend capital community preservation money for open space preservation or development or housing needs. I mean, I think we all kind of generically feel like we know that East Long Meadow has a housing shortage for, say, over 55, and there have been various attempts at addressing that. And there's been talk about improving Heritage Park and ball fields and new construction and so forth. And I personally somewhat hesitate to think about investing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in a particular section of town without the underpinnings of a master plan of sorts or some consensus as to what the needs really are and how best to address them. So I don't disagree that we don't need to get a consultant right now, but just so you know, that preparation of a master plan was, my understanding, it was a major function that was assigned to the planning director when that person came into the town's employment a couple of years ago. So
Valid points, Mary.
it's something that we do need. It's just a lot of money and
Now, it sounded from the write-up that there was potentially some funding available from the community preservation for some of this.
What if-
well, that's, I don't, the write-up for this was to engage a consultant, I think.
Right. But I thought I had recalled in the description and the form that there were a couple of different places she was looking to perhaps get some funding for. Yeah, obviously this was the town's portion, so I guess.
Yeah, the Community Preservation Committee has been active in trying to develop a plan, as I understand it, as it pertains to Heritage Park. But it may go beyond that as well. I'm not, I haven't gotten in on the ground level with them yet.
So we'll leave it at a D. We'll put resubmit for FY22. I think it is very important that we have an updated master plan, since the last one was when my father graduated high school.
So that puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
Things may be a little different.
okay.
All right. So let's skip down to start talking generators. Town Hall 150 kW mobile generator. Bruce, take it away.
Yep. This is obviously to support our offices here when the power goes down. Our current generators now are only for our server room and our cooling system for our server room. So this unit, obviously, would be a unit if the power went down in an event of emergency, be able to plug and play a new generator into the town hall, so all offices can be staffed and have power to the whole facility.
Bruce,
Yes.
we had a discussion on this many times over the last few years.
Yep.
And in that regard, we were talking about a purchase of a mobile generator with some upfitting for the outside of the buildings
Yes.
that could be towed around as necessary to facilitate having the power back up in each of the different locations.
Yes.
If it happens all at once, I understand that's not going to happen,
Mhm.
but we can prioritize which building we keep up and which we do not.
Right. Well, this obviously our existing mobile generators for our pump station. Pump station, if they would go down, we do actually have at our Watchog, Harkness, and Chestnut station that are currently equipped with generators, but also a temp tap on the outside of each facility. Just given the importance of that infrastructure, if those generators should blow up or fail, our other unit would be used to obviously plug and play these other critical facilities. It currently was being used because we actually had that at our Denslow pumping station. We had a mouse get in it last year and ate up all the wiring. So luckily we had that 150 kW unit lying around, and actually removed the old one, put that one in temporarily until the other unit was repaired. So the one we have now is typically for our water and wastewater sites right now.
So I will say that Bruce had this submitted last year for the capital plan. And I think it's a good project. I think it's good to be proactive, and it would be a good infrastructure improvement for the town. So the only issue was, and last year was the same when we finally got down to fitting everything into the available revenue. This one just didn't quite make it in.
Yep.
And I would hate to say it, but it might fall into that category this year as well.
I agree. Maybe put a C to it or a D. It's the committee's pleasure on that.
We lost Tom.
And I would just add, there's obviously other issues with DPW that might be more relevant at this point in time. So as we work our way down the list, I guess we're looking at what, maybe five vehicles, Bruce?
Yeah, at least out of multiple divisions.
Jim, I'm with you on the category here, if we all agree on the generator.
All right, do we have suggestions for categories for it?
Well, certainly infrastructure maintenance.
Yeah,
Improved.
approved operation if, I mean, it
Public
would be,
safety crew, maybe.
allow us to operate.
And Tom's back. Everybody good with the generator in Group C and the categories?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Public library carpeting replacement, 110,643. DPW building, it is set priority number 2.
Yep. Yep, obviously the existing carpets at this facility are original with the building. They're in pretty poor shape. The prices come down a little bit compared to last year's submissions. Last year, I believe it was 120,000. And a lot of that is moving costs. It's not the installation of the carpets, but it's the moving cost to pack up all the books, obviously categorizing them and everything else. But I believe this is another D, defer till next year, given our situation.
I'd like to make a comment here. There is an organization called the Friends of the Library.
Yep.
Fundraising. And I don't want to be grubby, but I'm given to understand that they have just recently been the beneficiary of a massive donation.
Oh, really?
And so I would like from an estate, a local estate. Now, obviously, the money is theirs to spend as they wish, but I think it might be wise for me to reach out to them and suggest that perhaps they might contribute to that and have it elevated from a D or a C to, and it'd be great if we could get it done now while the building's
Right.
closed. But
I know.
I'm gonna, if no one objects, I think I'll make a phone call or two and see if we can shake that tree.
Excellent.
So maybe put it as a C for now, Mary, and
Yes, I mean, I know we can't do it from town funds reasonably right now, but I do think with knowledge that I just spoke about, that it's worth a conversation.
So C, put it as a D. I think Bruce, you suggested a D, right?
I said a C
Sorry.
or D. Oh, yeah, I said a D for next year, but put a C in there if we can get some funding.
That's
I
all.
can I'll report back after I make
I'm thinking
contact.
we'll put it as a D. If we hear back and they can kick in 50%, then that'll significantly bump it up a little bit.
so I just wanted to be careful, Ryan. For some reason, I thought everything we categorized as D, we were going to kind of remove from our.
We still have them on the list. We just don't prioritize them. So if the Friends of the Library come back and say, nope, we're using our money for more important library items and we're not giving you any money for carpets, then would we still leave this project as a C?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Annual sidewalk account funding.
Yep, D.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Just so you guys know, the rest of the committee, Mary knows, last year we adopted the Complete Streets Initiative with a Mass DOT. We're actually working with VHB with a prioritization plan, which will have access to roughly about $400,000 per year. So I want to see how this plays out this year and see if we check all the boxes through the Mass DOT and hopefully we'll be able to fund it through the state. So I'll defer that till next year.
When would you know if that,
Yeah.
is there a balance from last year, Bruce? Is that what?
There is that we didn't use because obviously it wasn't significant enough for us to get moving. But we do.
50, did you tell me?
Yeah, let me see here. Annual sidewalk fund, yeah, $50,000 we have right now in the capital funding. So,
And that's what you've graciously suggested will be coming back to free cash.
yes, if needed, obviously, it's another way to help offset our deficit if we do have one.
Okay, but that's separate and apart from the 125 that you're putting in.
Yes.
Okay.
So like I said, I rather just, why not see how this plays out and see how we get in the order of the Mass DOT and with the surrounding communities.
Well, that just makes me feel better for my label of a D.
Yeah, the 125 was basically a handshake agreement from town meeting, back when we had town meetings, where a resident had put an article forward for millions of dollars to do sidewalks in town.
That's correct, Ryan, yeah.
The resident
I
can
can
see,
remember.
and now we do our best to fund the sidewalk plan, but it seems with the Complete Streets program that it makes sense to wait and see if we can get, sidewalks with somebody else's money, obviously, or at least have a plan. 'Cause I know the Complete Streets program is a lot more than just sidewalks.
Yes, it's signal upgrades, it's bike lane traffics, it's a multitude of projects, traffic signal improvements. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's a great opportunity for the town, which, like I said, we can get it off our general fund liabilities or bonding and moving forward. So another thing to keep in mind too, I know Miss Broaders, before she left, some of these developments in town, if we do not think these sidewalks and some of these developments, especially if they're not contiguous and meet up with other sidewalks, to put money into this sidewalk fund. So I think you have multiple avenues to get some funding for sidewalks moving forward, regardless of putting it into our capital plan.
Right. Bruce, if I may, Bruce,
Yes.
this came up some years ago in Capital when we were discussing the possibility of, instead in the town, putting up sidewalks in areas which may not get the highest use or have the best purpose, is to have developers contribute to the fund.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Right.
Yep. So that's obviously
And still-
out there now. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense because a lot of you could build a small neighborhood with 3 houses on it. You really don't need a sidewalk.
Exactly. And we see it all over the place. It just doesn't make sense.
You have a sidewalk that goes nowhere where that money can be used to put
Right.
a sidewalk on a main road.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I would just add one piece to that because I put sidewalks in too. And don't forget, even if the burden lies on the developer, it offsets back to the town once it's accepted by town. So if it's a 3-lot subdivision, at some point in time, the town is going to have to maintain and pay for that sidewalk. So-
Right. Exactly.
All right. Pretty good with sidewalks?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to repave parking lot at the fire station, which is somehow cheaper than carpeting the library.
This is going to be a full reclamation of the parking lot over there. Obviously, I don't know if you all know, but that's kind of the outskirts of the landfill over there. So the ground continues to move constantly. The pavement has just shifted so much. You can see the condition of the parking lot over at that facility. We've actually, I believe about 7-8 years ago, had to install aprons in order to get in and out of the garage because the asphalt was settling so much. I believe it's an important project. It's just going to get worse. It's not going to get any worse than it is. Yeah, it is what it is. It's an extensive project with a big dollar figure on it. So I'm not sure how the committee feels about it.
Bruce, did you just say it's not going to get any worse?
No, it's cracking. I mean, it's in pretty bad shape now.
It is in bad shape.
It really can't get any worse.
Bruce, on those prices, like with that in the town parking lots,
Yes.
do you think that the pandemic has any influence over the pricing? I mean, could it possibly be less based on the fact that there might be less work available for contractors?
I do believe that because just like I said, our water main project that we're starting today out here on Maple Street, our estimates were at 835,000, I believe, and we got bids in at 625.
Right.
This
So-
estimate is based on last year's obviously paving numbers, and we're going to be currently going out to bid obviously for our streets this month. So and given the asphalt and oil prices, obviously it's
Right.
a part of making asphalt. So I think those that pricing could go down. But you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah, well, I don't want to add to your workload, but it would be good to know if we could project a percentage reduction in those costs. Because the other thing that's crossing my mind with the fire station in particular is the significant increase in ambulance runs. I mean, they're up to thousands more per year, and now we have a second ambulance.
Right.
So there's an awful lot of traffic in that space, and
gotcha.
I think that the conditions that you described and perhaps the reduction in price and the increased volume
Sure.
might move that maybe from a C to a B or a, I
Gotcha.
don't know.
I will get some updated pricing, share it with the committee.
Okay.
So do we want to throw some categories on this?
Public safety, I would say yes. No. Capital infrastructure maintenance, yes. I'd say that's about it.
Yeah, okay.
Crack ceiling town park, 2,500.
Yep, so that's obviously to keep our existing parking lots in good shape. This would be crack ceiling town hall, police department, council on aging, and what other facilities do I have on my list here?
This helps to extend, right? This helps to extend the life of those
Yes,
paved areas?
yes. So obviously, if you don't keep up on your pavement maintenance, water gets in, obviously, cracks further escalate, and breaks up the pavement over time. So obviously, it is important. Unfortunately, we do crack sealing through our Chapter 90, but parking lots don't fall under that category to qualify for Chapter 90.
So I would say infrastructure maintenance.
Yes. Oh, so this is actually for police, fire, town hall, library, Maple Shade, Mountain View, Meadowbrook, Birchland High School, and DPW service building.
That's a lot.
Whoever.
I would make the same comment. I would see, I mean, from a procurement standpoint, they'd probably have to be separately
Yes.
bid projects. However, I'd like to see if we could get some revised estimates, and maybe some contractor could, have a price if that company thought they could get both jobs. It might be to our financial advantage right now.
Yeah, typically on crack sealing, it's a totally different animal. They usually don't do
Right.
both, but yep, I'll look into it and see if we can reduce that price even further.
I know, I'm getting greedy now. I'm
I
sorry.
know it is what it is.
All right. Anything else for crack sealing? All right, let's talk about truck 10. 1996 dump truck, $215,524.
Okay, this is obviously an older truck. We actually, back in 2010, I believe Mr. O'Connor was part of that committee then. We received, I believe, $25,000 back then to paint and just kind of get it up to snuff. But it has been on the replacement plan since FY 2010. I believe the pictures and everything else speak volumes. You can see the condition of the truck. And we have obviously another truck in there too, in the same condition. Can't buy parts for it anymore. So we're having a difficult time keeping these trucks on the road.
So Bruce, I have a question for you. Because there's, 5 or 6 items here.
Yep.
Could I ask you to maybe put a priority on which of these items would be most important to you? If you had to pick up an order, that would be
Yep.
for me.
Keep in mind also, these vehicles. So on my capital list, truck 10 and the Toro 4 are highway division. So those would be general fund liabilities. And the 1-ton pickup truck number 3, dump truck number 4 would come out of water. The Elgin sweeper would be coming out of the stormwater. And then we have the pickup truck 81, which is designated on the sewer enterprise fund. So we have different fund, you know what I mean? Different
I do.
funding.
I
So, so they are in order in the priority. So under the highway, it would be truck 10 as obviously the number 1 priority. The Toro Groundmaster would be number 2. The dump truck number 3 would be number 3. And then final item we're looking for is our flatbed that currently is out of commission, which is truck number 73, is parked behind the service building. That is number 4 for the highway or general fund liabilities.
That's the flatbed you said, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And just keep in
Priorities for
mind,
highway.
we have truck 47 that hasn't been in service for probably at least almost a year. That's sitting out back, and another dump truck, and the number eludes me which one that is sitting out back also. That is no longer in service.
Ryan, for some reason, I don't have the various departments that fall within a DPW for the funding sources
Sure.
listed on my document. I don't know if that column just did not print.
Got trimmed off on you?
Yeah, somehow.
Do you want me to repeat those
Well,
departments?
I heard what Mike had asked you to look into, and I would just echo that. I think even though it's coming from stormwater, it's coming from water, it's coming from sewer, there's always the potential that we could use those funds, if they're still available, to help offset some of the costs associated with those services, especially this year. My understanding from previous discussions is that we are at the mercy of the Springfield Water Sewer Authority.
Yes,
And this year, the cost will be going up again.
yes.
So I'd like to, seriously take a look at those and see if they're absolutely necessary, and like you to come back and prioritize them in a different way to see if we have the potential to use some of those funds to help offset some of these known increases that will be coming up.
Okay, well, obviously what I've submitted is the priority plan in my 5-year plan in the order of importance, which I've submitted to the Capitol. So number 1 is the truck 10, number 2 is the Toro, number 3, it would be truck 4, number 4 is the sweeper, number 5 is truck number 3, number 6 is truck 81, and then the final one, number 7, would be truck 73.
Right, but they're all coming out of different funds.
Yes.
So I'd like it in my opinion, I think we need to revisit this to see what the fund balances are and what the potential is if we do not spend from those funds and use that money in the future, again, possibly in the future, to help offset some of the costs to our residents.
Okay.
It looks like number 4 is a sweeper, right?
Yes.
So can you bring us up to speed on the sweeper? Are you getting rid of the one we have? Are you wanting to trade it in toward a newer one?
No, this is just, again, an additional sweeper, given the age of our existing one and the current condition of the existing one. Our current, let me see, find the backup documentation here. I believe our existing sweeper is almost 10 to 12 years old now. In order for us to keep up with our MS4 requirements, we're going to need an additional sweeper to help, obviously, with that task moving forward, the new MS4 requirements.
Bruce, I think sometimes people don't really, no insult intended, kind of get what you mean by that. Obviously, the new regulations that have been imposed have created additional work, I think is what you're trying to tell us.
Yeah, so in order for us to meet the requirements of the new stormwater permit, we have to sweep every street in our town twice a year.
Whether they need it or not?
Whether they need it or not.
Correct.
and report accordingly.
So that's an important point, because I mean, if people are asking council members or whomever, well, it didn't snow this winter, there's no
Right.
sand on the streets, why are we sweeping?
Right.
Right.
So not just for our sake, but for transparency for anybody that's going to watch this meeting going forward.
Sure.
We need answers. So
Yep.
they have to be swept. All the streets have to be swept twice, regardless of what's on them as a requirement by the
Yep.
state. Correct?
Yep, exactly. And like I said, our existing sweeper is 10 years of age now. We've actually had to dump a significant amount of money into it this year, about $8,000, because it's obviously showing its age. We had some obviously rotting parts, obviously the internal mechanisms, just because obviously the age and the wear and tear on the unit.
And I'm sure you probably already looked at it. Is it worth trading this in toward a new one, or you need one for?
Yeah, no, it's going to help our operations. We're barely keeping up as it is, what we have to do now. So this is obviously in addition to help offset some of the breakdowns that seem to be occurring more prevalent with our older sweeper.
Does that have a Hobbs meter in it?
I don't know what that is, a Hobbs meter.
It's like with Bobcats and,
Oh, yeah, an hour meter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me look into that though, Mike.
I was just going to say, because if it does, I mean, we're tracking hours for
Right.
scheduled maintenance and things
Right.
like that, but we already know it's 10 to 12 years old. And
Yep.
I can say I wasn't aware that all the streets had to be swept regardless.
Yep, absolutely. And obviously, any material we pick up has to be recorded also. The gallons of water we use, how much material we use, everything is logged, so we can report that to the obviously the EPA and the Mass DEP.
And is that because of contaminants possibly being
That's-
contained in the
yeah.
sand from an
Exactly.
EPA side?
Yeah, so another kind of segue into our MS4 permit and Allen Street. Part of our deal, I guess you could say, with the Mass DEP is to actually cap and use some of that street sweeping material, which they will allow us to cap the Allen Street landfill. We currently have about 70,000 yards up at the transfer station now at the Summers Road that we were supposed to dispose of this past year. But after meeting with the Mass DEP, they're going to allow us to use that material to cap the Allen Street landfill. And we'll be able to use that facility moving forward down the road. So we don't have to dispose of contaminated materials.
Bruce, question for you.
Yep.
The one sweeper doing it twice a year,
Yes.
how many days is a sweeper actually used?
After the winter, just about every day. I don't have the exact hours on how many days a week it goes out, but I can get some of that information for you.
Yeah, so to meet the requirements of the MS4, we have to do it twice a year.
Yes.
But if it takes 6 months for one unit to do half the town and one unit 6 months to do the other half,
Mhm.
obviously, there would be a need for two.
Mhm.
Or you're stressing that older unit for a whole year to
Right.
get the town done.
Right.
I guess what I'm asking for is what you suggested is additional information. And also, as an aside, I mean, rather than a purchase, is it a potential for some sort of service or lease?
I've done this before. Obviously, the leasing option is more expensive than purchasing outright over obviously the time. I did
That
that
include,
Bobcat. I did that with the mini excavator. The numbers just don't are not favorable to leasing.
And how about the mower? Do we have a similar one? Would this be the second one?
It'd be another one, yes. To replace our used mower that we have. It's a 2008 with many hours on it that we bought, obviously to help out with the mowing issue that we have and parents have with our fields.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to elaborate on that, because that particular piece of equipment services the entire town, and particularly the Parks and Recreation Department, by making the open spaces and the playing fields acceptable, because they're still not great, but without that equipment and
Exactly.
an upgrade to it, we'd be in bigger trouble, I think.
So this is to replace, it's actually a 2003 Toro Groundmaster, which we got in 2012 used, just because of breakdowns and.
Sorry, I was on mute. I apologize.
Oh.
I did have a question on the sweeper before we go on to the mower. It's proposed to come out of the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. So if I understand it correctly, it would not come out of the general fund. It would not affect our tax rate.
Exactly.
Bruce, for that amount, is the Stormwater Enterprise Fund have those kind of funds to do that, to absorb this, or will you have to increase fees?
No, fees this year are staying even for all residents. We did some minor adjustments for commercial and whatchamacallit, Jesus.
Industrial?
Excuse me?
Industrial?
Yes, industrial areas. We did do some minor changes as far as the stormwater fee. But all under my enterprise funds, I did recommend bonding for each and every one of those under water, sewer, and stormwater.
And the funds can absorb the debt service without any large increases in fees?
That's correct.
All right, sorry, I was on mute. I was,
Okay.
I'd forgotten to unmute myself when I came back.
Just as an aside, I read in this morning's paper, Springfield Water and Sewer is seeking a 17% rate increase for fiscal '21.
Right.
Which will certainly be passed through to its customers if it's approved by the city council. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and Mary, to your point, that goes to what I asked for earlier. I think behooves us to have the information on these funds to see what monies are available in the water, sewer, and stormwater enterprises, and see if we can use some of those monies to help offset some of those intended and those future costs.
Yes.
So let's, can we get some category suggestions for our sweeper?
Government mandate?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Improved operation?
Yes.
Yes.
Um,
Infrastructure maintenance, doesn't it clean up?
Yeah.
I can see that. Then, you know, what's the rest of the committee feel?
I'm okay with that.
Quality of life, I mean, it's cleaning the streets, but it seems like the second one's kind of more to meet the regulations.
Believe it or not, you don't know how many residents call to ask to get their road swept.
I know, I'm always happy when the streets are swept. It makes an enormous difference, just visually.
I'm okay with QQL. QOL.
All right. Since we'd already talked about it, can we jump back down to the mower? And get some categories for that.
Sure.
Quality of life. Start with that.
Improved operations, definitely.
Yep, that makes sense.
Public safety, if the grass isn't mowed, is somebody going to trip and fall? I don't know.
Well, I think that's apt.
Yep.
And certainly quality of life.
All right. Oh, we're cooking. Okay, let's loop back to truck 10. That was your number one priority, funded from the general fund. I know there was discussion on reprioritization. So, Bruce, I had changed the departments to the funding source.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to, this is just subsequently 3 because that's what it was before.
Right.
If you want to prioritize these within those projects or within that category. So like where the truck number 4 would fall in the water department capital list.
Right. There's only one vehicle we're asking in the water department, so that's one.
But
That's the one that's
so,
out of service now? I mean, that's the one you said is parked?
Yeah, it's parked in the back. Yep.
so that would be a higher priority than the water meter modules?
No. See, I put all my equipment separately.
Yeah. And I think for capital's purposes, you really kind of have to break it down by funding source
Right.
and prioritize within that funding source.
Yeah. Okay. Is that what you're looking for, everybody? Is to meld all my equipment and everything else into my my capital plan for each enterprise fund? That's what we want to do.
Yes.
I
Well,
think,
in addition, Bruce, to the information I asked for earlier, which is where we stand with the balances in each of those funds, since we know we're going to have some increases, and I don't want to pass on any increases to our residents.
Well, that's going to have to come out of finance, I think, just so that, and we're struggling. We are down. It was a department of 4. As of today, there are 2. And it may be a 2 for a while. So patience is a virtue.
And part of your rates and fees package I submitted with my budget is some of those answers, Mr. O'Connor, are in that packet as far as existing balances and everything else.
You know what, Bruce? I don't think a lot of the counselors have even seen that yet because
No.
you left them with me and then we closed. So I think there's still a pile of them on my desk at work.
Okay.
What's the fund for the lawnmower, the Toro?
That'd be general fund.
General, okay.
Bruce, the truck that broke down this winter that necessitated the 28K in repairs, is that on this list or is that a different?
Nope, that's up and running and running fine. And actually, just to give the committee, and I know 2 of the council members that approved that funding, our other truck that Mr. Kane talked about did end up failing on us, but we ended up doing it in-house at almost half the price, just because I couldn't come to you guys for any additional money. So my staff stepped up to the plate. It was a long and arduous project, but they got it done. So our other, obviously, our other truck did fail. Subsequently, I believe maybe 2 months after the repairs were made on the other one, or maybe a month.
And what did you have to do to that truck?
Replace the motor. We ended up buying a crate motor and threw in, yep.
Wow.
So we knew it was happening, and
Yeah.
of course we got 2 lemons. So
Yeah.
we should be okay now for a little while.
Ryan, could you just note on the number 48, the 73, that truck is out of service?
When Bruce, how long ago did that go out of service?
That's been the middle of last summer.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Oh, 2019.
And same with, yeah, that was the flatbed and the, hey, Daryl, are you in there? What other dump truck is out back? I can't remember the number. You know, if that's not being used, it's sitting back there because of the sway bars, or
That truck's gone.
Oh.
Truck, that was the old truck.
what was the
50,
other dump truck?
73. 19 to right now.
Oh, 19, is it 19 now?
I think for dump trucks, I thought 550 was the last one.
Was it?
That was the one last year.
So 4 and 10 are still
4 and 10,
operational?
yes.
Still operational
Yes,
for right
correct.
now? Okay,
Yes, they are.
okay. All right, there it is. So truck 19 is the one that's sitting.
That's not on the list here, though?
No. Obviously, given the priority and the age of these trucks. Start with the oldest. Can't buy parts for them anymore. I think truck 19 we can.
Okay.
All right. So, what we talked about truck? No, we talked about truck 10. So categories for truck 10. Suggestions: infrastructure maintenance.
Yep. I think public safety too is part of our snow plowing operations. I don't know how the committee feels on that too, with all our dump trucks.
Yeah, I believe in the past consider plowing public safety for vehicles in that category.
Sure.
Infrastructure maintenance, I would say yes. Everybody agree, not agree?
Yep.
Okay.
That's okay.
Improved operation, this is the existing truck 10, Bruce, does not have like one of those, I'm not sure what they're called.
Oh, the ground speed control units, the Dickie Johns.
What'd you call me?
The Dickie John system is actually a unit that goes on our sanders. It's a computerized program that puts down so many pounds per mile of salt. It's a way for us to kind of keep track of how much material is being put down and help offset some of those expenses if we can. These older trucks do not have them. You open the chute an inch or 2 inches, depending on the storm you have, and you just run until you're empty.
So the new dump truck that would replace this would have the built-in sanders built into the dump body, where this existing truck.
Yes, with the off-season bodies. Yep.
So you could be doing a regular road job and then
Yep.
go and just fill it up and let it
Yep.
rip.
Yep.
So for that purpose, I would say it's improved operation.
Yes, I
That's
think
fine.
so.
And then the rest of the other two I can't see as categories.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for truck number 10?
No, it's good.
All right. I think we're done with the Toro mower, right?
Yes.
So we'll move down to truck number 3, 96,188 from the general.
Truck number 3. Where's my truck number 3? Well, truck number 3 is it's a 2001. We actually this year had to take the dump body offline. The actual frame is cracked due to rot, corrosion. It's constantly in the shop, obviously given its age. So it's a pretty straightforward project. Anybody have any questions?
This is highway, right?
Yes.
Yep, general fund. So we can start with categories. I'd say it'd probably follow the same categories as truck number 10.
Yeah, they can follow the same format, I think.
Probably wouldn't be improved operation though, right, Bruce? Would you say
Uh,
more of a direct replacement? I mean, obviously a new
no.
would be better, but
Well, if the other one's constantly in the shop, then you're not using it.
Right.
So if you have it out on the road, it would help.
Yeah,
I hope your improved
Yes.
operation.
absolutely.
all right. So anything else for truck number 3? Questions, comments, concerns? Truck number 73. It's been out of service. We got that flagged. I don't know if anyone else has any questions on it, or if Bruce, you have any additional information that you want to provide. Is that the
Yeah,
flatbed truck?
The flatbed truck, obviously, we use it for our water jobs, sidewalk jobs, and everything in between for transporting material. We actually use it for cleaning catch basins. Sometimes, depending on the location, we set up the cement mixer, the cement, everything on the back of the truck in order to save us trips going back and forth to the yard. So I believe it's a very important piece of equipment for the department.
Okay.
Off the top of your head, when's the last time you got, do you replace one every year? Or have you been? Or are you?
No, last year, I don't believe we received a Bobcat. We received a Bobcat, a mini excavator last year, and just a pickup truck for our stormwater foreman.
You also got the lift one, didn't you, for the water? You got the one with the crane on it.
That's the foreman's truck, I believe.
I believe that was the year before, Tom.
That's okay. You don't have to take the time now, Bruce. I was just curious, but I mean,
Yeah.
these trucks are old and I've seen the pictures at least. I haven't seen the real thing, but I don't think I need to.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows too, this is kind of given give me a little bit of heartache, especially over this pandemic. So I'm down to 25 people operating at the DPW because I don't have enough transportation for everybody. So therefore, given the few vehicles we have left over in the yard, I can't house my staff safely, putting them in a single vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine saying that none of us are driving anything that's from 1999.
No. Well, and it's just that I'm only allowing one person per vehicle, and that vehicle is assigned to each individual person. So obviously, no one gets cross-contamination, I guess you can say, during this pandemic.
Do you plow with 73?
Yes, we did in the past. Yes, we did.
So the replacement truck would come with a plow?
Yes.
All right. Infrastructure maintenance, I believe everyone would agree.
Mhm.
It would be improved because it's a replacement. It's not an actual better model, no different additional features.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Bruce or comments or concerns about truck number 73? None. Okay. Let's go to sewer. This has to be reprioritized. Source. So I mean, I guess we could talk about truck 81. You want to talk about that now, Bruce, or do you want to prioritize it first?
Well, truck 81's another just a replacement vehicle for an existing vehicle. It's a 2002. It's rotting apart. We can't get a sticker for it anymore, just like the other vehicles, given the condition.
Does it plow?
Yes, it does. It'll come with a plow. Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
I'm just gonna say this, it's no reflection on anything that you and your department have been doing, but a few years ago, we authorized the purchase of a maintenance software so that you could maintain these trucks for a longer period of time by, once you got them off the road, to maintain them and to wash them down. Is that maintenance schedule being followed? And can we see that?
Absolutely. I've actually implemented that myself through my existing work order system.
Because one of the reasons, and I remember this conversation, we authorized the purchase of that was so that it would help better maintain these trucks so they wouldn't rot out. And what I keep hearing is the body's rusted, the frame's rusted.
That was before me, Tom. So
I know, I'm not saying you. Again, I know it's no reflection on you, but if this was an ongoing issue, then we have to live with it until we get better. But I want to make sure that it's not occurring again.
It is not, and I will give you maintenance plan.
I
Yep.
imagine in future it'll be much better. You know, this one's 18 years old already, so
Right.
you're kind of putting lipstick on a pig at this point by trying to make sure it doesn't rust out.
I actually took over the maintenance for any and all the vehicles, I believe, or started the process to maintenance, scheduling maintenance, and taking over that whole thing, I believe, in 2015, 2016.
Yep.
When Mr. Parent was here.
So just a question on, we're still talking about truck number 81?
Yep.
It says can't get a mass and state inspection sticker in the current condition. Does that mean the current condition can be improved and you can get a mass sticker so you can use it?
It'd be very difficult. All the wheel wells are rotted out. The bed is rotted out. So you're probably talking
20.
8 to 10,000, if not more, in order for us to do that. So the truck isn't worth it.
And that was sewer
Yes.
with a plow. Okay.
All right, any other questions for truck 81 other than just gonna wait for that to be reprioritized in the sewer funding sources? If there's nothing else, we'll move on to inflow and infiltration with sewer rehabilitation for 100,000. This is an annual thing, right, Bruce?
Yes, it is. It's part of our ongoing requirements for the Mass DEP. And I don't know what's going on with my computer.
Only there was an IT guy handy.
Oh, there we go. Gotcha. Never mind.
Bruce,
Bruce, I'm sorry, Tom, are there fines imposed for failure to comply with whatever this rehabilitation inflow and infiltration system requires?
No, it is not, but it's going to help offset what we pay Springfield Water and Sewer Commission. We currently have a manhole sealing project going on. So
Right.
inflow and infiltration is obviously water, groundwater coming through our leaky pipes. So obviously, this is part of that process to identify these areas, which we've been doing for many years, past administrations. We've taken a new approach since I've stepped into place, and we are actually going to be doing some of these projects moving forward. So this is going to be part of that program, lining pipes, sealing manholes, so on and so forth.
yes, Bruce, that's a nice segue into what I was going to ask. We've been funding this for several years now. What's the benefit, if any, has been shown by us doing this? Has it reduced our discharge to bondies?
Oh, not at this point, no. And just like I said, our past administration did very little. Part of my process moving forward, we've actually sent out clear water disconnect notices to residents. These are residents that have obviously our sump pumps and everything tied into our stormwater or into our sewer system. So we are ramping this up. We haven't seen much savings yet. But we are going to be tracking that moving forward. It's pretty difficult in some instances, and part of that process too, Tom, to answer your question, is putting in these flow meters at certain locations, which we've talked extensively about. So by doing this, installing the flow meters is going to give us an actual reading once we have all these flow meters in. So basically, Springfield Water and Sewer is estimating what we're giving them. So there's a few different projects, obviously, when it relates to our sewer, and we're putting our best foot forward to help offset some of these expenses to Springfield Water and Sewer by implementing these projects.
So for the inflow and infiltration, but I mean, that also, Bruce, to run that project is dependent on if it rains. So if you have a dry summer, then you can't do it because you can't measure groundwater when there's no groundwater.
Right. So yeah, exactly. So we actually have a few years of data that we can work with, obviously, right now for the next year or two before we have to do any more investigations. But like you said, when there's no rain or it's dry, it's hard to calculate some of those items.
Okay, just so I threw in these three categories. I'm not sure how you guys are feeling with it. If you what do you think for those, government mandate from DEP, infrastructure maintenance for maintaining the sewer lines, because part of that is the rehab where you shoot the cloth pipe through there, right, and shoot the steam and harden it up,
Yep.
right?
Yep, exactly.
So, and then improved operation, we're turning in less clear water, less liquid to sprinkle water and sewer.
Yep.
Any questions, comments for inflow and infiltration before we move on? Hearing none, we'll move on to wastewater flow monitoring meters. Bruce, I know you just kind of touched on it a little bit for 533,500. You want to just give us a little more info on there?
Yeah, so that's to help obviously implement our flow meter project. So this would be in conjunction to help with the final funding and the funding to offset. Obviously, I went in front of the council regarding the flow meters a few months ago. So this is in conjunction with that money in order to get the North Main corridor installation of that flow meter, and to help install an additional device over at our Porter Road location.
How many flow meters, Bruce, is involved here? It says wastewater flow monitoring meters. How
Yeah,
many are we talking about?
this is just 2 of our sites. So we actually have 7 sites that intersect Springfield.
And how many are you're working? We currently don't have any, right?
The only one we are able to monitor from is our Vineland station. That is it.
So, and then you have some projects that are in the works now.
It's the North Main one. We're actually going to be hopefully going out to bid. I'm thinking by the mid-month. We're waiting for the final design. We've actually, me and Felix, the water and sewer administrator, actually moved the project into East Long Meadow just because of the red tape through Springfield we had to go through last year. We had to meet with the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission. We had to meet with the Board of Public Works of Springfield. We had to go to the City Council. So we came up with a new plan to shift it towards the East Long Meadow side, so we don't have to go through that red tape again. So it's still the cost is still going to be the same. The only difference is we believe there may be three connections that won't be able to be in front of the flow meter, and we'll have to do that by estimating those flows.
So so at the end of this project, we'll have 3 locations monitored,
Yes.
and then the other 3 are future plans, or are they just like low flow?
There are going to be future plans. Each and every one of them need a flow meter. That's the only way for me, obviously, to calculate what we're giving to Springfield. We did do some brief calculations a few months back. We came up with 11.5 million gallons per month when we're being charged 12 million gallons per month. Those are just based on estimates. Obviously, we need real-time data in order to obviously get a more favorable bill or be able to monitor what we're actually giving to Springfield to reduce our costs.
Do you have a sense, Bruce, as to what 500,000 gallons a month would mean in terms of savings?
I do not have those figures.
That's where I was going too, Jim. I was thinking, what's the return on investment here? How many years would it take us to get that money recouped, so to speak? But
Sure. Well, this is going to
Okay.
be another requirement too. I actually, when I met Mr. Schimmel back when I started my first day meeting with him to obviously get a feeling of what Springfield does, what they do for the town of East Long Meadow, gave me a letter stating you have 1 year to put in all these flow meters. So it's not only information for the town, but it's more of a state mandate also. The state hasn't mandated it, but obviously moving forward with the new NIPD's permit, it's going to be mandated at some point in time for us to do this anyways.
I'm just having a hard time with that number.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a big number and has such a huge impact on our budget and the residents.
It is funded from sewer, but yeah, I do get your point. Yeah, so actually, if we get the ROI, that could potentially.
Yeah.
The thought.
Actually, the thing that would be good to see is the sewer, the enterprise funds, and how these projects, if they were funded, would impact those funds, whether it's through debt service or whatever, just to see what kind of impact we're talking about in terms of rates.
I do have all that information, but
Okay. Because I mean, I don't know what the fund balance is now, Bruce, but I would assume that 533,000 would take a pretty big chunk out of it.
well, I did estimate on bonding, obviously everything through water and sewer. So let me see here. This is water, sewer. This is the sewer fund. So as of right now, Our debt service right now for total P&I principal and interest is $481,863.66. Miscellaneous fees is about $9,000 if I added in each and every one of my sewer enterprise fund projects. Over a 20-year bond, which I'm recommending, would add an additional $51,592 to that balance. So the total debt in P&I would be $542,594.48.
Jim, this goes back to my earlier question. I like to see those, but I think Mary mentioned that would have to come through finance officially. And
Well, I
could-
think that, Bruce is doing yeoman's work, obviously. It's clear from just what we've listened to for the last few hours this morning. We're just having some difficulty in finance, but that's where the records are kept, obviously, and that would be the place that I would look to and expect to get that information.
Yes, and Ryan, if I may, can we add a column, if it's possible, to show bonding source? I don't see it on my document. I don't know if it's there.
You mean whether it'll be bonded or taken for, paid as cash, Tom?
Correct. I think it'd be helpful to us to know that it's, the intention is to bond it.
Yeah, so as it is right now, like I said, we're paying about $60,000 a year with these new projects out of our water sewer enterprise fund. And under the water side, our current debt is $2,442,498. And our yearly, I believe our yearly bond would be, let's see here. I did this all myself. 122,424 per year, I believe. But like I said, we got to get that information from accounting or finance.
All right. Last but not least, pump station communication PLC upgrades.
Yes, our existing PLCs, this is our SCADA system. Just like our building automation system, the parts will no longer be made, and obviously we need to upgrade our equipment out in the field. This obviously helps with operations. We're able to do off-site monitoring through this system, where the Mass DEP requires us to be on site if we didn't have this remote monitoring capability. So you'll see this in the sewer, and I believe it's in the water division also, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 75-25, right?
Yeah. So obviously the breakdown is based on where the units are going, the costs.
So for categories, I would say public safety. I mean, this goes down,
Absolutely.
all of a sudden toilets start flowing backwards.
Yeah.
Infrastructure maintenance.
Yes.
Any arguments there? Yeah.
Quality of life.
Bruce, is this
All
one
of
of
these
those?
projects, the more information, I mean, depending on what the committee decides and how these projects are weighted, they're all valid and they all go to quality of life in a sense, because they're a measure of what you want for the community. I mean, obviously we're constrained fiscally, that just is stating the obvious, but all of these systems will improve operations. They will save on labor costs. They'll upgrade the status of our operations immeasurably, in my view. The question isn't about the merits of any of them. It's strictly how to afford them. And
Correct.
that's a value judgment that we all have to make, sooner rather than later. But so I don't think it's, I don't think there's any question that any or all of the projects have merit.
No, I would agree with you, Mary.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. It's just, When I look at the numbers now, I equate them to potentially to employees of the town. And like this project, 339,000, given the average salary of 75,000, that's 4 employees.
For 1 year,
Yeah,
not for the next year.
no,
Any other questions, comments, or concerns for pump station communication and PLC upgrades? All right, we'll move on down to water. Truck 90, or truck number 4, Bruce.
Yep. Obviously it's a 1997. It's kind of the same explanation I'm going to give you with truck 10. It's an older piece of equipment, and obviously you can't get parts for it anymore, and it's on its last legs.
Bruce, why is this one 35,000 more?
This is actually a slightly larger dump truck. It's actually
Actually 45, sorry.
yeah, it's actually a larger dump truck. In order for us to do our water jobs, water replacement job, it's actually got twice the capacity for hauling materials away.
All right. Any other questions on truck number 4? Moving on to water meter modules. Assuming that's for homes.
Yes, it is. Actually, we're at that time again with our old meter replacement project. I believe, Tom, you were here when Dave Grabowski was in front of you.
Yeah.
Our existing ones, our batteries are going dead. They're at their useful life. So we need to start replacing them again. So this goes along with our meter reading equipment that the capital committee allocated, I believe, 2 years ago. So this is just part of our, obviously, infrastructure improvement to start replacing those. And this will be a multiple year project.
Right. And 2 questions, Bruce.
Yep.
How many water meters are we talking about here, these modules?
I will get you that count. I don't know if it's in here.
Bruce, is the 131 for the entire project, or is that for this year?
Oh, that's just for this year.
That would have been my follow-up question is like, is this something phase 1 of 3 years or 4 years or 2 years? And how many meters does it involve?
So this is actually a 5-year plan. Failure. This is for 1 inch and 3/4 meter. So this is for residential. Hold on. So this is for. So that's for 2, 6. This is for about 800 meters. It's part of it's in the capital request folder. You can see it. It's on page 129 on how many meters it is.
So Bruce, in the 5-year plan, does this have like 131 going out for the next 3 or 4 years?
We don't have next year's. I don't have next year's in front of me, but I believe it'd be similar. But I'll have to get that. So it kind of gives you the explanation on page 129 on how many meters it is.
And is this the first year we're beginning the replacement?
Yes, if funded.
All right. Anybody have any questions on the water meter modules? The last one we have is pump station communications for the water, which I believe we're good. I believe we talked about that. I mean, for the water meter modules, I just put infrastructure maintenance because there's no real new additional features with it, right, Bruce?
Exactly, no.
So if anyone has any other DPW questions on our current projects.
I have just one question on the MS4 requirement. When did that come into play? Is that something new for 2020 or has it been pre-existing for a while?
It's been in since we, obviously the regulations came in place in 2018, I believe July 1st of 2018, those requirements.
Fiscal 19 was the first year.
So we've been going at it for a little over 2 hours. You guys want to hold the school until our next meeting?
Yes, I need to excuse myself.
Yeah, I think we made a lot of progress.
Yep.
In the school, yeah, I don't mind waiting and deferring on those items until our next meeting.
I find it a good place to break. Anytime these meetings go much past 2 hours, it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, you're staring at a screen here and going.
Yeah.
But let
Brian,
me
I
ask
know-
you this. Do you
Brian,
want,
I know you will tidy this up and resend it.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna do it right.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I know you've done that in the past. Thank you.
Ryan, do you intend to invite Gordon?
That's up to the committee. I know we have Bruce here. I know the school is anxious to participate. So if the committee would like, I can invite them for Monday.
I personally found it helpful having Bruce participate, obviously as a committee member, but also to give some of the background and you on the IT matters. So I think it might behoove us to have Gordon or someone, his designee, to help us understand the background of some of those projects might be helpful.
Yep,
I agree.
I agree, yep. Yeah, because they are, they have a pretty good chunk of submissions there.
Yeah.
I'll get Gordon invited, and then is Monday at 10 a.m. good for everybody still?
I believe so.
Yes.
So I'll shoot for that. I'll invite Gordon and his team, and I'll send out this updated list to you guys as well as the finance subcommittee. If anyone has any other business, you can get going. Or other than that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
What are your second
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. It was a good meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Great work. Take care.
Thank you.